Every man carries an invisible world around him, not his money, not his looks, not even his status, his frame. It's the silent force that decides how people feel when they're near you, especially women. It shapes whether she feels safe, curious, drawn in, or uncertain, distant, and slowly pulling away. Most men never realize when this invisible world starts collapsing. One day she's warm and affectionate, the next she's cold, quiet, and detached, and he thinks she changed. She didn't. She is reacting to something deeper, the stability of the man standing in front of her. Women don't fall for words. They respond to emotional presence, calm energy, and inner strength. When those things weaken, attraction fades no matter how kind, loyal, or generous you are. Once you understand how this invisible system works, women stop feeling confusing. Their behavior becomes predictable. Their reactions start to make sense. And for the first time, you stop chasing connection and start becoming the kind of man it naturally moves toward. Your frame is not your attitude. It is not dominance. It is not pretending to be confident. Your frame is the psychological environment you create around yourself. It is built from your values, your boundaries, your emotional control, your self-respect, and the way you respond when things don't go your way. When a woman enters your life, she isn't just meeting you. She is stepping into the world you live inside. She watches how you handle silence, how you deal with tension, how you respond to disagreement, how easily your mood changes. These moments tell her everything about who leads, who follows, and how safe she can feel with you. A strong frame feels calm and grounded. A weak frame feels uncertain and reactive. Women don't want chaos. They want emotional stability. When your inner world is solid, your presence feels steady. When it isn't, she feels the need to take control, not because she wants power, but because she needs safety. Attraction grows when a woman feels she can relax inside your world, and that only happens when your frame is strong enough to hold her there. Most men believe attraction is created by giving more. More attention, more reassurance, more emotional availability. They think if they just show enough care, a woman will feel safe and fall deeper. But what actually happens is the opposite. When you are always available, always agreeing, always adjusting your life around her, your world slowly loses its shape. Your frame starts to dissolve. At first, she enjoys the attention. She feels wanted. She feels important. But over time, something changes. She begins to talk over you. She starts pushing boundaries. She pulls away emotionally, not because she dislikes you, but because your presence no longer feels grounded. A woman cannot relax inside a world with no structure. When your frame becomes weak, she subconsciously starts building her own. And once she does that, you stop being the center of your own life. You become a guest in hers. That's when respect fades. And when respect fades, attraction slowly disappears with it. Being kind is not the problem. Losing your self-respect is. Every woman tests a man, not because she wants to create drama, but because it's the only way she can feel emotional certainty. These tests are rarely obvious. They come as small moments: a delayed reply, a sarcastic comment, a sudden change in tone, a little emotional distance. She is not trying to upset you. She is watching how you respond when things feel uncomfortable. Do you panic? Do you chase? Do you start explaining yourself? Or do you stay calm, centered, and steady? A woman is not searching for obedience. She is searching for emotional strength. When a man becomes reactive, when his mood rises and falls with hers, she feels she has to take control. Not because she wants power, but because she needs stability. Real strength is not loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't plead. It stays grounded. And when a woman feels that emotional stillness in a man, something shifts inside her. She relaxes. She trusts. She stops testing, because she has finally found someone who doesn't lose himself when things get tense. A man doesn't lose his frame all at once. It happens quietly, in small moments he barely notices. It starts with one unnecessary apology, one ignored boundary, one time he stays silent just to avoid conflict. Slowly, he stops leading. He starts asking instead of deciding. He begins shaping his life around her emotions. He believes he's protecting the relationship. In reality, he's weakening it. At first, she enjoys the attention. She smiles when he cancels his plans for her. She feels important when he puts her first every time. But underneath that, something changes. She stops feeling the same respect. And without respect, attraction cannot survive. Not in anger, in distance. She pulls back emotionally. She becomes less present. She stops leaning in. Most men panic when they feel this shift. They try harder. They give more. They explain themselves. But desire cannot be negotiated back into existence. The more you chase, the faster it disappears. Because attraction doesn't fade when a woman feels unloved. It fades when she stops feeling that a man stands firmly in his own world. Once a woman has formed an image of who you are, that image becomes the lens through which she sees everything you do. If she has learned to see you as uncertain, reactive, or afraid of losing her, that perception sticks. You can suddenly try to act confident. You can raise your voice. You can set new rules. But it feels forced. Because real strength isn't something you perform. It's something you are. A man who is truly grounded doesn't need to announce it. His presence speaks for him. The louder a man becomes, the more he reveals the insecurity behind the noise. True confidence is quiet. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't beg for approval. When your inner world and your outer behavior match, women feel it. They relax around you. But when there is a gap, when your actions feel like an act, she senses it immediately, and attraction disappears. You cannot convince a woman that you are strong. You have to be strong. And that only happens when your identity no longer depends on her reactions. Every man carries an invisible world around him, not his money, not his looks, not even his status, his frame. It's the silent force that decides how people feel when they're near you, especially women. It shapes whether she feels safe, curious, drawn in, or uncertain, distant, and slowly pulling away. Most men never realize when this invisible world starts collapsing. One day she's warm and affectionate, the next she's cold, quiet, and detached, and he thinks she changed. She didn't. She is reacting to something deeper, the stability of the man standing in front of her. Women don't fall for words. They respond to emotional presence, calm energy, and inner strength. When those things weaken, attraction fades no matter how kind, loyal, or generous you are. Once you understand how this invisible system works, women stop feeling confusing. Their behavior becomes predictable. Their reactions start to make sense. And for the first time, you stop chasing connection and start becoming the kind of man it naturally moves toward. You don't rebuild your frame by trying to get her back. You rebuild it by rebuilding yourself. The first step is brutal honesty. Stop blaming her for losing attraction. Respect didn't disappear because she changed. It disappeared because your standards slowly did. Somewhere along the way, you started choosing her comfort over your clarity. You avoided tension. You ignored your own boundaries. You made peace more important than truth. And that's where your frame began to crack. The second step is silence. Not coldness, not punishment, but emotional discipline. Every time you argue, justify, or explain yourself, you give away power. Respect is not earned through words. It is felt through consistency. When you stop chasing reactions and start standing in your own ground, people notice. The third step is boundaries. Strong boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about protecting your time, energy, and self-respect. When you treat your life like it matters, others do too. Your frame is not something you perform. It is an ecosystem. Everything you think, allow, and tolerate either strengthens it or weakens it. So rebuild quietly, not to impress her, not to prove anything, but to become a man whose world does not collapse when emotions rise. That is real power. The most powerful man in the room is not the loudest one. He is the calmest. He doesn't rush to reply. He doesn't panic when someone pulls away. He doesn't explain himself into exhaustion. He observes. He stays grounded. He holds his emotional center. That stability creates gravity. A woman can feel it. It makes her relax. It makes her stop trying to control the situation. Not because she is being dominated, but because she no longer needs to. This man doesn't chase validation. He doesn't need constant reassurance. His sense of worth comes from inside, not from how someone else feels about him. When a woman tests him, he doesn't react. He responds with calm presence. When she withdraws, he doesn't beg. He stays steady. That emotional discipline makes him impossible to manipulate, not because he is cold, but because he is centered. He doesn't lose himself in someone else's emotions. And that is exactly why people are drawn to him. Strength is not about control. It is about stability. And stability is what creates real attraction. Every man wants love, but not every man understands what keeps love alive. It isn't charm, it isn't effort, it isn't how much you give. It's the foundation you stand on. Your frame is the invisible gravity that shapes how a woman feels around you. It decides whether she leans in or pulls away, whether she respects you or slowly stops trying. When that foundation is weak, everything else collapses. The connection fades, the affection disappears, the silence grows, and most men make it worse by chasing harder. But now you know the truth. You don't regain power by fixing her. You regain power by fixing yourself. When you respect your time, your standards, and your emotional balance, people feel it. You stop chasing connection. You start commanding presence. That is when attraction becomes natural instead of forced. So let her come or let her go. What matters is that your world remains strong. Because a man who stands firmly in his own frame can never be emotionally controlled, never be reduced, and never lose himself for love again. And when you become that man, everything changes, not just in relationships, but in life. That is the real power.